Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Please have a seat. And yeah, we are about to start. And let me first introduce our MC of the day, Megan Steele. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thank you for joining us today at the ICTforAg global event at the headquarters of the International Food Policy Research Institute in Washington, D.C. My name is Megan Steele. I'm a junior expert in innovation ecosystem engagement for CGIAR's Accelerate for Impact platform, and I will be your MC today. This year's ICTforAg main theme is localizing impact. And for the next 3 days, we will have thoughtful conversations with you on what it takes to localize the power of information and communication technologies for small-scale producers in the low and middle-income countries. Today's event will be followed by a series of 4 in-person events in Texcoco, Mexico, Nairobi, Kenya, New Delhi, India, and Los Baños, Philippines for the next 2 days, as well as 50 virtual sessions on Thursday. Overall, we will be organizing more than 100 sessions with 150 speakers across these 5 locations. So first, on behalf of the ICTforAg planning team from CGIAR, DAI, and Dev Global, we want to sincerely thank our sponsors who made this hybrid event possible. That's the United States Agency for International Development, Feed the Future, the U.S. government's Global Hunger and Food Security Initiative, the Rural Development Administration of the Government of the Republic of Korea, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of Mexico. We also want to thank our event partners, IFPRI and CGIAR Accelerate for Impact platform for today's global event in Washington, D.C. Now I'd like to introduce the first speaker of the day, Dina Esposito from USAID, to give us an opening remark. Dina Esposito is USAID's Global Food Crisis Coordinator and Assistant to the Administrator for the Bureau for Resilience, Environment, and Food Security. In this capacity, she also serves as the Deputy Coordinator for the Development for Feed the Future, the U.S. government's food security initiative. Previously, she served as the Vice President for Technical Leadership at Mercy Corps and also served as the Director of USAID's Office of Food for Peace, where she oversaw the agency's relief and development food assistance portfolio. Throughout her career, Dina has focused on the challenges of delivering relief and development assistance in fragile and conflict-affected states and worked to advance collective action and multidisciplinary solutions to complex challenges. So please join me in welcoming her.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Megan, for that very thorough and warm introduction. Much appreciated. Welcome to ICTforAg 2024. I am delighted to be back. I was here last year doing this introduction virtually. I'm delighted to be here in person with all of you today. Over the next 3 days, as you've heard, more than 2,000 people will be gathering online for the first time actually since COVID, in person across 5 locations around the world, as well as the virtual components. And you heard those meetings will be taking place here in the United States, in Mexico, Kenya, India, and the Philippines. I want to give my special thanks to the CGIAR for hosting these events, particularly the institutions that are hosting in person and the International Food Policy Research Institute here in Washington, which is where we are this morning. Also, a special shout out and thanks to DAI and Dev Global for their leadership and partnership with USAID in organizing this meeting. I do also want to acknowledge and welcome the 30 young professionals from 16 countries. Some of them are here in the room, others are online. They've been selected for this year's competitive ICTforAg Next Gen Ambassadors program. I want to thank them in advance for sharing their learning, their knowledge on how to really transform their local agri-food systems. Your efforts and those of all of you joining here are really coming, as we know, at a very critical time. Agri-food systems around the world are facing unprecedented challenges from climate and macroeconomic shocks, from conflicts and inequitable growth that is actually pushing poverty and hunger trends in the wrong direction. If we want to change that, we want to reverse that, we really need to accelerate the pace of change and scale the solutions that we know work. Digital tools, of course, are absolutely vital for helping us do just that. Around the world, tools like AgriConnecta in Guatemala, Geocrishi in Nepal are opening up new portals to timely and locally relevant information, services, and markets. They're breaking down barriers to knowledge and creating new models for farmers and agribusinesses to partner and thrive. And they're creating new ways to foster inclusion, resilience, and engagement with marginalized communities. There are great opportunities before us, but at the same time, we know that significant roadblocks stand in the way of fully realizing those opportunities. Billions of people, especially women around the world, remain disconnected. High costs, inadequate network coverage, digital illiteracy, to name a few of the challenges, are stifling potential. We know that a key way to overcome some of these hurdles is by working with communities to co-create and co-develop solutions. The theme of this year's conference, Localizing Impact, will allow all of you joining around the world to delve more deeply and engage collectively on this critical issue. In November of 2021, USAID Administrator Samantha Power set out a vision for USAID to advance locally led development, recognizing that only by putting local actors in the lead and strengthening local systems can we hope to deliver strong and sustainable development results, especially for the most marginalized. If you're not familiar with the internal reforms USAID is undertaking to put local actors in the lead, I invite you to go to our website, usaid.gov/localization, to learn more. Locally led development is also a hallmark of Feed the Future. You heard it mentioned in the opening. This is the US government's flagship global hunger initiative that I'm proud to be serving as a deputy coordinator for, with Administrator Power serving as the coordinator. For more than a decade, this initiative has collaborated with communities, with partner governments, with farmers, and with agribusinesses and others to reduce poverty, reduce hunger, grow incomes, and increase ag productivity. And we know we've had success. Our strong monitoring and evaluation framework, our impact evaluations tell us that in countries where we work and areas where Feed the Future works, we see stronger food systems, we see better nutrition, we see more empowered women, and we see greater resilience to shocks. All of these key requirements to really transform the system that we're talking about here. Our digital agriculture report, State of the Sector report, which we launched at last year's conference, highlights how deep engagement with local end users and integration of local wisdom into digital ag services are key. In fact, the report tells us that these results could deliver a more than 4-fold increase in the number of smallholder farmers in low and middle income countries using digital ag tools by 2033, just in the next 9 years, including 64 million more women. Through Feed the Future, we see how local engagement can lead to scalable results. In Nigeria, small and medium agribusinesses informed our local partners that not enough of their farm customers had sufficient access to mobile phones to use the digital services increasingly being offered, constraining their business growth as well as the productivity of smallholders they work with. To address this constraint, Feed the Future supported local businesses to add and strengthen the capacity of field agents who, equipped with mobile phones and a suite of apps introduced through the projects, visited farmers and provided more tailored extension services. These agents have already reached more than 1 million farmers, and we anticipate reaching 1 million more within the next year. Results are showing that farmers are buying more improved seed varieties, the right amount of fertilizer, and other new products and services. Paying trained field agents equipped with digital tools and expertise are now increasingly part of a sustainable market system model in Nigeria as business owners enjoy increased profits and a strong return on this investment. This activity is now in the process of deploying a local language AI-enabled bot that will be able to answer farmers' questions in real time. Responsibly localizing AI is just one of the key topics that will be featured at this conference and you'll be delving into more deeply later today. Your opportunity to learn from each other about what works and what doesn't, of course, extends well beyond this conference. As some of you may recall, at last year's conference, I announced the newly launched ICTforAg Learning Network. The Learning Network affords you an opportunity to continue to collaborate, share, and learn with peers from around the world. And if you haven't signed up yet, I encourage you to do so and to really take an active role in bringing your knowledge, your learning, and expertise into these various fora. It is really a collective effort to deliver on the transformative and scaled change we're looking for. Finally, one more item for your to-do list, please, if I may. USAID has just released a draft of its new digital policy, which will guide our approach to digital technology for the next decade. One of its guiding principles is a focus on strengthening local capacity, infrastructure, and partnerships. The policy is currently open for public comment through June 7th. You can find a link to the policy in the ICT4Ag online event platform by clicking on this opening remarks session. I invite all of you to read the draft, to really share your ideas and offer ways that we can improve it. Your contributions, of course, are critical to our success. There's nothing that we do that we can really succeed on without our partners and your strong technical expertise. I want to thank you really for your passion, for your innovation that you bring to this topic. ICT4Ag, of course, being a key element in transforming global agri-food systems. So I wish you an enriching and inspiring conference, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you this morning.
Thanks so much, Dina, for sharing those insights. Thank you, Dina, for sharing those insights. It's great to hear that USAID's new digital policy for the next 10 years emphasizes strengthening local digital capacity, infrastructure, and partnerships, as you said, which aligns very, very well to the theme of ICT4Ag, localizing impact. The next speaker to welcome you to today's event is James Thurlow, IFPRI's Director of the Foresight and Policy Modeling Unit. James, over to you.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, so it's a real pleasure for me to welcome you to IFPRI. That's my role this morning. As Megan said, I'm the Director of Foresight and Modeling, and you can imagine, I think I'm going to speak on behalf of all my colleagues here when I say that we're probably the nerdiest group at IFPRI. And so I think I know firsthand just how easy it is to get enamored by the science and the technology, whether that's the rapid proliferation of mobile phones and digital platforms that are getting information into more people's hands, or it's the innovation, the excitement around sort of satellite imagery and remote sensing and that high frequency, high resolution data that allows us to get more timely information into more local contexts. And of course, you can't have an event like this one and not, especially today, and not talk about the power of machine learning and artificial intelligence and how that can help us better analyze and better communicate the information that we're generating. So I think without a doubt, I'm excited, and I think ICT clearly has a very bright future, but as Dina was saying, there are some challenges, right? There is a dark side to ICT that we have to acknowledge. And so, you know, whether it's the risk of social exclusion, of some people being left out, whether it's the possibility of political and corporate manipulation and even misinformation, right? All of these are challenges. This is the flip side, the unavoidable trade-off that comes with technology. And so I think that speaks to our roles and our responsibilities, those of us in this room and online. You know, I'll leave it to you as the experts to tell me whether or not those challenges I mentioned are more acute, more pronounced in developing countries, but I think there's a clear role for development partners like USAID to sort of make sure that they're applying high standards to their own operations and helping governments do the same. There's a clear role for policy partners, right? Organizations like IFPRI as well, who are sort of helping sort of governments create an environment that emphasizes the good and discourages the bad sides of ICT. And then probably most important of all, and especially for the theme of this conference, there are the communities and the civil society that are not only on the front lines of getting the technologies out into people's hands, but they're often also the final check and balance to make sure that we see those good sides of ICT come to the fore. So I think that's what makes, I was looking at your program and everyone that's attending, and I think that's what makes this event so unique and so exciting, is that all three of those constituencies, the development partners, the policy partners, the civil society, all of them are here in this room and online, right? And that's quite unique. And I think, you know, in addition to that, I've looked at your agenda and I can tell this is a crowd that doesn't shy away from tackling those difficult challenges. Many of them are topics that are going to be discussed today. So I'm going to wish you a very successful and a very productive, very thought-provoking workshop, and I look forward to hearing or seeing some of the results and listening to some of the discussions. I do just want to add to what Megan said and thank USAID and the other sponsors for making this possible. And normally we kick thanks to the organizers to the end, people who did the logistics. But let's break with tradition. Let's actually start. I have at least a couple in my unit who've had sleepless nights and lunchless days. And so let's start with a round of applause and thank them for getting us here today. Thanks very much.
Thanks, James, for that warm, welcoming message. And we also want to say a special thank you to IFPRI for hosting today's event. Now, before we continue, please allow me to do a couple of quick housekeeping notes. I'd like to introduce those ICT4Ag Next Gen ambassadors that we mentioned up top. So if you've been to any previous ICT4Ag events, you will know that youth and young professionals have always been an important part of the agenda. But this year we needed them more than ever. So in each of our ICT4Ag locations, we have a dedicated team of Next Gen ambassadors playing an important role in communicating with the audience, learning and sharing new knowledge, and supporting the event team over the 3 days. So for today's event, I'm happy to introduce you to 2 US-based Next Gen ambassadors selected from the highly competitive process that gathered 182 applicants around the world. So please join me to welcome Alwyn Hopp from the University of Florida and Onolunose Okoose from Yale University. If you can raise your hand. Additionally, today we have students from the Computer Science Department of the University of Virginia who volunteered to join the Next Gen ambassadors in supporting our event. So please welcome Bonnie Koo and Leo Lee. Throughout today, our ambassadors will engage with you to learn how we can best localize ICT for agriculture in the Global South. So please engage with them to help them grow in the ICT for Ag community. And another important role that they will play today is keeping time. We do have a very tight schedule, so your help keeping the time will be important. We know that sometimes these important discussions can run a bit over. So when that happens, our Next Gen ambassadors will show you a distinctive red sign with Elmo. And when you see Elmo, please consider moving on so we have time to cover all of the fascinating topics that are part of the agenda today. Near the end of the event, we'll invite the Next Gen ambassadors back up to share their reflections. So please continue to engage with them throughout the event, and we're looking forward to see what they glean from this. So I believe this is the sign to move on to the next section. So let me introduce you to our keynote speaker, Ya Anokwa. I'd like to start with a question. How many of you have used Open Data Kit ODK? Can you raise your hand? All right, and how many of you have not heard of ODK? Thanks. Well, if you have collected data in the field, especially in the context of ICT4Ag, chances are you have already used ODK or another tool that has been rooted in ODK. 16 years ago, when he was a student at the University of Washington, Ya started a class project to develop an offline capable data collection software for low resource settings. Today, this has become ODK, one of the most popular data collection tools, and forms the foundation for a rich global community of users active in every country on the planet. So please welcome Ya for our keynote address.
Thank you for having me. It's crazy that it's been 16 years. When I started the project, I was much skinnier and less gray, but here we are. Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Thanks so much.